15 ancient mysteries that are still impossible to explain today. Imagine standing inside a world that should not exist. A team of archaeologists descends through a narrow opening carved into the earth. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing tunnels stretching far beyond what anyone expected. Chamber after chamber emerges from the shadows. Ventilation shafts, living quarters, storage rooms, entire sections of a hidden world built beneath the feet of people who vanished centuries ago. Thousands of miles away, another discovery raises a different question. Massive stone structures sit atop remote mountains where transporting a single block would challenge modern engineering. In another corner of the world, an undeciphered message waits silently on ancient tablets. No one knows who wrote it. No one knows what it says. Entire civilizations seem to be speaking to us through time, yet their voices remain trapped behind a locked door. History is supposed to provide answers. Instead, some of its greatest discoveries create even deeper mysteries. For generations, scholars believed that the ancient world was largely understood. Empires rose, kingdoms fell, technologies evolved, humanity progressed step by step toward the modern age. It seemed like a complete story. Then the evidence began to appear. Hidden cities buried underground. Forgotten cultures that disappeared without leaving a final record. Artifacts displaying knowledge that appears astonishingly advanced for their era. Monuments constructed with a precision that still sparks debate among experts. Maps, alignments, and symbols that continue to resist explanation despite centuries of investigation. Each discovery opened a crack in the historical narrative, and through those cracks, something unexpected emerged. The possibility that vast portions of humanity's story may be missing, not because they never existed, but because they were lost, destroyed by war, buried by natural disasters, erased by time, forgotten by the generations that followed. What remains are fragments. A wall here, an inscription there, a tunnel disappearing into darkness, a structure standing alone against the horizon. Together they form a puzzle unlike any other. Tonight we will travel across continents and through thousands of years of human history to investigate mysteries that continue to challenge archaeologists, historians, engineers, and scientists alike. Some of these enigmas have survived empires. Some have outlived religions. Some have remained unsolved for centuries. And every one of them leads to the same unsettling question. How much of our past have we truly lost? Because the deeper we dig into the ancient world, the harder it becomes to ignore a possibility that grows more disturbing with every discovery. Perhaps history is not a completed book. Perhaps entire chapters are still missing. The underground labyrinths no civilization should have needed. The entrance is easy to miss. A narrow opening carved into a hillside, a forgotten shaft concealed beneath centuries of dust, a passageway so unremarkable that countless people may have walked past it without realizing that beneath their feet lay an entire hidden world. Yet once explorers descend into the darkness, the scale of the mystery becomes impossible to ignore. The tunnel continues, then another, then another. Soon, what appeared to be a simple cavity in the earth reveals itself as something far more extraordinary. A vast underground labyrinth built by human hands. In central Anatolia, modern archaeologists uncovered one of the most astonishing examples ever found. Beneath the surface stretched multiple levels of interconnected chambers capable of housing thousands of people. There were living quarters, food storage areas, water sources, workshops, gathering spaces, and even sophisticated ventilation systems that carried fresh air deep underground. Massive circular stone doors could seal entire sections from the inside. This was not a temporary refuge. It was a carefully engineered environment designed for long-term survival. The question that immediately emerged was simple. Why would an ancient society invest such enormous effort into creating a city hidden beneath the earth? The deeper researchers investigated, the more unsettling the mystery became. Similar underground networks began appearing in different regions, often separated by vast distances and belonging to different cultures. In parts of Europe, ancient tunnels snake beneath forests and farmland. Some are narrow enough to force travelers to crawl. Others connect settlements that once stood miles apart. Their true purpose remains uncertain. Were they defensive escape routes, secret trade corridors, sacred passageways used in forgotten rituals? Every theory explains part of the evidence, yet none fully explains all of it. One possibility points toward fear. History is filled with invasions, raids, and wars capable of wiping entire communities from existence. A hidden city could offer protection when walls and armies failed. Yet many of these underground structures appear to have been constructed long before the conflicts traditionally used to explain them. Another theory suggests environmental catastrophe. Ancient populations may have faced prolonged droughts, extreme weather, volcanic eruptions, or other disasters that forced them underground. But again, the evidence remains frustratingly incomplete. The builders left behind their creations, but not the reasons that inspired them. What makes these labyrinths so fascinating is the level of planning visible in every detail. Ventilation shafts were positioned with remarkable precision. Water systems were integrated into the design. Storage chambers indicate preparation for extended occupation. Entire communities could potentially survive beneath the surface for weeks, months, or even longer. Whoever built these complexes was not reacting to a sudden emergency. They were anticipating something. They understood a threat that future generations would eventually forget. Imagine descending into one of these cities during its final days of use. Torches flicker against stone walls. Families move quietly through narrow corridors. Supplies are carried into storage rooms. Heavy stone doors stand ready to seal the passages above. Somewhere in the darkness, children ask questions their parents struggle to answer. Outside, on the surface, something has convinced an entire community that life below ground is safer than life beneath the open sky. That forgotten moment, frozen in time, remains locked behind centuries of silence. Today, visitors walk those same corridors and encounter only unanswered questions. The people are gone. Their fears vanished with them. Their voices have been replaced by echoes bouncing off ancient stone. Yet the existence of these underground worlds proves one thing beyond doubt. Ancient societies were capable of undertaking projects far more ambitious than many once believed. And if they could build entire cities beneath the earth, what might they have accomplished above it? That question leads directly to another mystery, where ancient builders chose locations so remote and so challenging that their achievements continue to puzzle experts even now. The ancient sites built where they should not exist. High above the clouds, on wind-swept mountain ridges and isolated plateaus, stand monuments that seem to defy common sense. In places where transporting food, water, tools, and building materials would have been a challenge even for modern expeditions, ancient civilizations somehow managed to construct enormous structures that have survived for centuries. The mystery is not simply how they built them. The mystery is why they chose to build them there at all. Again and again, archaeologists encounter sites located in places so remote, so inaccessible, and so unforgiving that their existence forces us to rethink the determination, capabilities, and motivations of the people who created them. Consider the ancient city of Machu Picchu. Perched high in the Andes Mountains, surrounded by steep cliffs and rugged terrain, it occupies a location that appears almost impossible. Massive stone blocks were shaped with extraordinary precision and fitted together without mortar. Transporting those stones through mountainous landscapes would have required immense effort. Yet Machu Picchu is far from unique. Around the world, Similar questions emerge wherever ancient builders selected locations that seem to challenge practicality itself. Remote temples cling to mountaintops. Fortresses rise from barren deserts. Ceremonial complexes appear in regions far removed from major population centers. The deeper historians investigate these locations, the more they discover that convenience was rarely the primary concern. Many ancient societies viewed geography through a very different lens. Mountains were not obstacles. They were sacred places connecting earth and sky. Isolated plateaus became gateways to the divine. Remote landscapes offered protection, symbolism, and prestige. A ruler who could command the construction of a monumental site in such an extreme location demonstrated power far beyond ordinary limits. These projects became statements of authority, faith, and ambition written directly onto the landscape itself. Yet even with those explanations, many puzzles remain unresolved. Some sites required logistical coordination on a staggering scale. Workers had to be fed. Materials had to be transported. Construction had to continue in environments affected by harsh weather, thin air, or difficult terrain. The planning alone would have demanded remarkable organizational skill. In some cases, archaeologists still debate the exact methods used to move enormous stone blocks into positions that appear nearly impossible. Every answer seems to generate new questions, revealing just how much ancient engineering remains poorly understood. Imagine standing among the builders as one of these projects begins. Hundreds of laborers carve stone from distant quarries. Teams haul materials across treacherous paths. Priests perform rituals to bless the site. Leaders envision structures that will outlive generations. Years pass, then decades. Entire lives are spent contributing to a monument whose completion some workers will never witness. The result is not merely a building. It is a declaration that certain ideas, beliefs, and ambitions were powerful enough to overcome geography itself. What makes these sites so fascinating is that they reveal something fundamental about human nature. Ancient civilizations repeatedly pursued goals that seemed irrational from a purely practical perspective. They invested enormous resources in projects whose significance extended far beyond immediate survival. In doing so, they left behind enduring mysteries etched into mountain peaks, carved into desert rock, and embedded within landscapes that still inspire awe today. Their achievements challenge the assumption that ancient people always chose the easiest path. Often, they deliberately chose the hardest one. As remarkable as these structures are, at least we know the civilizations that built most of them. We can study their cultures, examine their artifacts, and reconstruct parts of their history. But what happens when an entire society vanishes before explaining itself? What happens when cities remain, monuments survive, and evidence endures, yet the people behind them disappear without leaving a final chapter? That mystery takes us into one of the most haunting questions in all of history: the civilizations that vanished without leaving a final chapter. History is filled with wars, invasions, and disasters. Most leave behind a trail of evidence. There are records of battles, accounts of rulers, signs of gradual decline, and clues that help explain what happened. But scattered throughout the ancient world are civilizations that seem to break this pattern entirely. They flourished, expanded, built cities, developed complex cultures, and then, in what feels like the turning of a page, they disappeared. Their monuments remained. Their roads survived. Their artifacts endured. Yet the final chapter of their story was never written. One of the most unsettling examples comes from the ancient city of Cahokia, near present-day St. Louis. At its height, it was one of the largest urban centers in North America. Thousands of people lived among massive earthen mounds, organized plazas, and sophisticated infrastructure. It was a thriving center of trade, politics, and culture. Then, something happened. By the time Europeans arrived centuries later, the city had been abandoned. No definitive explanation survives. Environmental stress, social unrest, disease, political instability, or some combination of factors may have played a role. Yet no answer fully solves the mystery. An entire civilization faded from the landscape, leaving only questions behind. The same pattern appears again and again across different continents. Archaeologists uncover abandoned settlements where daily life seems frozen in time. Tools remain where they were left. Buildings stand empty. Public spaces show signs of sudden neglect. In some locations, populations appear to have dispersed gradually. In others, the evidence suggests a more abrupt departure. Historians reconstruct possibilities from fragments, but certainty remains elusive. The further back in time we travel, the more often we encounter societies that seem to step into the shadows and never emerge again. What makes these disappearances so haunting is the human reality behind them. These were not abstract civilizations. They were communities filled with families, leaders, merchants, builders, and children. People woke each morning believing their world would continue as it always had. They celebrated victories, mourned losses, planned for the future, and invested their lives in cities they expected to endure. Yet somewhere along the way, circumstances changed. A chain of events began unfolding. Perhaps the warning signs were ignored. Perhaps they arrived too late. Whatever happened, the outcome was the same. The society that once seemed permanent ceased to exist. Imagine standing in one of those cities during its final years. Markets still operate. Temples remain active. Life appears normal on the surface, yet unseen pressures are building beneath that stability. Crops may be failing, trade routes may be collapsing, internal divisions may be deepening, environmental conditions may be shifting. No one knows that they are witnessing the final generation. No one realizes that future historians will search desperately for answers hidden within the ruins. To the people living through those moments, the end probably looked very different from the way we imagine it today. Modern researchers continue to analyze climate records, archaeological evidence, settlement patterns, and ancient artifacts in an attempt to understand these disappearances. Every new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle, yet the most important pieces often remain missing. Without written accounts or complete records, entire chapters of human experience have been erased. We see the beginning, we see the achievements, we see the remains. The ending, however, exists only as fragments scattered across centuries, and perhaps that is what makes these vanished civilizations so compelling. Their disappearance reminds us how fragile historical memory can be. Entire societies can shape the world around them and still leave behind mysteries that future generations struggle to explain. Yet even when cities survive, another challenge remains. Sometimes the buildings endure. Sometimes the artifacts remain intact. Sometimes the messages themselves survive. But what if no one can understand what those messages are saying? What if the voices of the past are preserved forever, yet remain completely silent? The messages. Humanity has never been able to read. Somewhere in the ancient world, a scribe carefully pressed symbols into wet clay. Another carved strange markings into stone. Another filled an entire manuscript with lines of text, illustrations, and patterns that were meant to be understood by future readers. Each of them believed they were preserving knowledge. Each expected their words to communicate ideas, stories, warnings, laws, beliefs, or discoveries. Yet centuries later, their messages remained trapped behind an invisible barrier. The writing survived. The meaning did not. One of the most fascinating realities of archaeology is that historians regularly encounter texts they cannot read. Entire writing systems have been discovered without a key to unlock them. Unlike languages such as Egyptian hieroglyphics, which were eventually deciphered through breakthroughs like the Rosetta Stone, other scripts remain stubbornly silent. Their symbols are known, their patterns have been studied, their structures have been analyzed by experts, yet their actual meaning continues to evade every attempt at interpretation. It is as if ancient civilizations are speaking directly to us through time, while using a language that humanity has completely forgotten. The Indus Valley civilization presents one of the greatest examples of this mystery. Thousands of inscriptions have been uncovered on seals, pottery, and artifacts throughout what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. The civilization itself was remarkably advanced, with sophisticated urban planning, drainage systems, and extensive trade networks. Yet despite decades of study, researchers still cannot read its script. The inscriptions are often short, making decipherment even more difficult. Without understanding their writing, historians are forced to reconstruct an entire civilization while remaining unable to hear its own voice. The challenge becomes even more intriguing when mysterious texts appear in unexpected forms. The famous Voynich manuscript contains hundreds of pages filled with unknown writing, unusual illustrations, and diagrams unlike anything else from its period. Linguists, cryptographers, historians, intelligence agencies, and computer scientists have all examined it. Some believe it conceals a genuine language. Others suspect an elaborate code. Some have even suggested it may be an intentional hoax. Yet after centuries of investigation, no explanation has achieved universal acceptance. The manuscript sits in plain sight, visible to everyone, understood by no one. Imagine discovering a library from a lost civilization and realizing that every book inside is unreadable. The knowledge is physically present. The thoughts of ancient people still exist on the page. Their observations, fears, ambitions, and experiences may be waiting there. Yet a missing key prevents access to everything they wanted future generations to know. It is one of history's most frustrating paradoxes. We are surrounded by information, yet separated from it by thousands of years of cultural and linguistic change. Modern technology has not solved the problem. Artificial intelligence can identify patterns. Powerful computers can compare symbols and structures at incredible speed. Statistical analysis can reveal recurring sequences, yet meaning remains elusive. Language is more than patterns. It reflects culture, context, and shared understanding. Without those elements, even the most sophisticated algorithms encounter limitations. The ancient authors remain just beyond reach, their messages suspended between discovery and comprehension. These unreadable texts reveal an uncomfortable truth. Human knowledge is far more fragile than we often assume. Entire systems of communication can disappear. Languages can vanish. Meaning can dissolve while the physical evidence remains intact. We often think of writing as a way to defeat time. Yet these mysteries demonstrate that even written words can become isolated from the people who created them. And if forgotten civilizations left behind messages we cannot understand, what other forms of knowledge may have disappeared entirely? That question becomes even more startling when we encounter ancient objects that seem to possess capabilities far beyond what their era should have allowed. Because sometimes the greatest mystery is not what ancient people wrote. It is what they knew. The technologies that appeared. Centuries before their time. In 1901, sponge divers searching the waters off a small Greek island made a discovery that would leave historians stunned. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than a corroded lump of bronze recovered from an ancient shipwreck. It looked ordinary, damaged by nearly 2,000 years beneath the sea. But as researchers began examining the object more closely, they realized they were looking at something that should not have existed in the ancient world. Inside the corrosion was a complex system of interlocking gears, not one or two gears, but dozens of precisely engineered components working together in a way that resembled sophisticated mechanical devices from a much later age. Today, it is known as the Antikythera mechanism, and many researchers consider it the world's first known analog computer. Capable of predicting astronomical events, tracking celestial movements, and calculating cycles with remarkable precision, it challenged long-held assumptions about ancient technological capabilities. The most disturbing question was not how it worked. The question was why no other device like it had ever been found. The Antikythera mechanism is far from the only discovery that seems disconnected from its historical context. Across the ancient world, archaeologists continue to uncover examples of engineering, craftsmanship, and scientific understanding that appear astonishingly advanced for their time. Some structures demonstrate mathematical precision that required extensive knowledge of geometry. Certain metallurgical techniques produced materials whose manufacturing methods remain difficult to fully reconstruct. Ancient builders repeatedly achieved results that modern observers often underestimate until they attempt to understand the complexity behind them. Part of the mystery comes from a tendency to view history as a straight line of progress. We imagine knowledge accumulating steadily from one generation to the next. Yet reality is often far more complicated. Civilizations rise and fall, libraries burn, empires collapse, trade networks disappear. Knowledge can be lost just as easily as it can be gained. A breakthrough achieved in one era may vanish entirely if the society that developed it experiences disruption or destruction. What survives is not always a complete record of what once existed. Imagine standing inside a workshop where one of these remarkable devices is being constructed. Skilled craftsmen shape metal with extraordinary precision. Scholars record observations of the stars. Engineers test mechanisms designed to model the movements of celestial bodies. To the people living in that world, this knowledge may not have seemed mysterious at all. It was simply part of their understanding of reality. They could never have imagined that future generations would look back with disbelief, wondering how such sophistication had been possible. The true significance of these discoveries lies not in proving that ancient civilizations possessed modern technology. Rather, they reveal that human ingenuity has repeatedly reached extraordinary heights throughout history. The past was often far more innovative than popular imagination allows. Entire traditions of knowledge may have flourished, disappeared, and left behind only fragments. Each fragment reminds us that historical progress is rarely a smooth upward climb. It is a story of advances, setbacks, forgotten achievements, and rediscoveries stretching across thousands of years. And yet, even the most advanced device tells only part of the story. Technology reflects knowledge, and knowledge leaves traces beyond machines and tools. Sometimes it appears in something even more astonishing: ancient maps, celestial alignments, and mathematical understanding that continue to puzzle researchers today. How did people without satellites, modern instruments, or advanced navigation systems acquire information that still raises questions centuries later? The answer leads us to another mystery that refuses to stay buried: the maps, alignments, and knowledge that defy explanation. Long before satellites orbited the Earth, before telescopes revealed distant galaxies, and before modern navigation transformed the oceans into predictable routes, ancient civilizations were already studying the world with an intensity that continues to astonish researchers. They tracked the movements of stars, recorded celestial cycles, mapped landscapes, and aligned monumental structures with extraordinary precision. In many cases, their achievements seem so remarkable that they force us to ask a difficult question. How did they know so much? One of the most intriguing examples comes from ancient monuments whose alignments appear anything but accidental. Across different continents and separated by thousands of years, civilizations repeatedly constructed structures that correspond with astronomical events. Certain temples capture the light of the rising sun on specific days of the year. Massive stone complexes align with solstices, equinoxes, and important celestial cycles. These patterns require generations of careful observation. Ancient sky watchers spent decades recording the movements of the heavens, transforming the night sky into a vast calendar that guided agriculture, religion, and political power. What makes these alignments so fascinating is the level of accuracy involved. Even small errors would become obvious over time. Yet many ancient builders achieved results that remained effective for centuries. They understood recurring patterns in nature with a sophistication that is often underestimated today. Their monuments were not simply structures, they were instruments. Stone became a tool for measuring time, predicting seasons, and connecting human life to the larger rhythms of the cosmos. Then there are the maps. Few artifacts have generated more debate than certain ancient cartographic documents that appear to contain surprisingly detailed geographical information. Among them, the Peary race map remains one of the most discussed. Created in the early 16th century, it was based on older source materials that have largely disappeared. Historians continue to examine how such information was gathered, preserved, and transmitted across generations. The map itself does not provide all the answers. Instead, it raises new questions about the accumulation and survival of knowledge in a world without modern surveying technology. Imagine a navigator standing on the deck of a ship centuries ago, studying coastlines that stretched beyond the horizon. There were no GPS systems, no satellite imagery, no digital charts. Every voyage depended on observation, memory, and experience. Knowledge was gained through risk. Storms destroyed ships. Explorers disappeared. Entire expeditions failed. Yet little by little, information accumulated. Routes were shared. Landmarks were recorded. Patterns emerged. What appears mysterious today often represents the combined efforts of countless individuals whose names have been lost to history. At the same time, some discoveries continue to resist easy explanations. Archaeologists occasionally uncover evidence suggesting that ancient societies possessed mathematical and astronomical insights far beyond what outsiders once assumed possible. Their calculations guided architecture, agriculture, navigation, and ceremonial life. The more researchers learn, the clearer it becomes that these civilizations were not merely observing the sky. They were building entire systems of knowledge around it. Their understanding shaped how they interpreted reality itself. Perhaps the greatest lesson from these mysteries is that knowledge rarely appears suddenly. It is built over generations, refined through observation, and preserved through tradition. Yet history also shows how easily such knowledge can vanish. Libraries burn, kingdoms fall, teachers disappear. Entire intellectual traditions can be fragmented or lost. What survives are clues scattered across maps, monuments, and alignments that continue to challenge modern assumptions about the ancient world. And if so much knowledge has already been lost, what else may have disappeared with it? Somewhere beneath deserts, buried beneath collapsed cities, or hidden within forgotten chambers may lie discoveries capable of transforming our understanding of history. Some researchers spend entire careers searching for those answers. They pursue missing tombs, hidden archives, and legendary treasures that have remained beyond reach for centuries. Their search leads directly into one of the most enduring mysteries of all, the lost treasures the world still cannot find. Few things capture the human imagination more powerfully than the idea of something priceless, hidden somewhere beyond reach. Across thousands of years, kings, conquerors, priests, and entire civilizations accumulated treasures that symbolized wealth, power, knowledge, and prestige. Some were displayed before crowds. Others were locked away behind guarded walls. Yet history has a habit of swallowing even the most valuable possessions. Wars erupt. Empires collapse. Cities are abandoned. Generations pass. Eventually, maps disappear, witnesses die, and locations fade into legend. What remains is a mystery that refuses to die. Among the greatest of these mysteries is the lost tomb of Alexander the Great. When the legendary conqueror died in 323 BCE, his death sent shockwaves through the ancient world. His empire stretched across vast territories, and his name became synonymous with military genius. Historical sources describe an elaborate burial and a tomb that later attracted rulers, pilgrims, and admirers. Then somehow it vanished. For centuries, archaeologists have searched for it. Numerous locations have been proposed, excavations have been launched, clues have emerged and faded. Yet the final resting place of one of history's most famous figures remains unknown. The search for lost knowledge can be even more compelling than the search for gold. Throughout history, libraries preserved the intellectual achievements of entire civilizations. They contained scientific observations, historical records, philosophical works, maps, engineering techniques, and cultural traditions. Many disappeared through war, neglect, natural disaster, or political upheaval. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria became one of the most famous symbols of this loss. While historians continue debating the details of its decline, the larger truth remains undeniable. Countless works vanished forever. Entire branches of knowledge may have disappeared alongside them. Then there are the treasures hidden intentionally. Throughout the ancient and medieval worlds, rulers often concealed wealth during periods of crisis. As enemy armies approached, valuable artifacts were buried or moved to secret locations. Some were successfully recovered, others were not. Archaeologists continue uncovering hoards of coins, jewelry, ceremonial objects, and sacred relics centuries after their owners disappeared. Each discovery raises the possibility that countless others remain hidden. Somewhere beneath forests, deserts, mountains, or ancient ruins, forgotten caches may still be waiting to be found. Imagine being among the final guardians of one of these treasures. News arrives that a powerful enemy is advancing. The decision is made to hide what cannot be protected. Under cover of darkness, trusted individuals transport valuable objects to a secret location. Landmarks are recorded, instructions are memorized, oaths are sworn. The plan is simple: return when the danger has passed. But the people never return. They die in battle. Their city falls. Their descendants scatter. Within a generation, the secret begins to fade. Within a century, it becomes a legend. What makes these stories so enduring is that some mysteries genuinely remain unsolved. Modern technology has transformed archaeology. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, remote sensing, and advanced excavation methods have revealed discoveries once thought impossible. Yet countless searches continue without resolution. Some lost treasures may have been destroyed long ago. Others may still exist, hidden beneath layers of earth and stone. The uncertainty itself keeps the mystery alive. Every unexplored chamber and every unexcavated site carries the possibility of a discovery that could rewrite history. And yet, as fascinating as these missing treasures are, they may not represent the greatest loss. Gold can be melted, jewels can be stolen, tombs can collapse. But something even more important may have vanished over the centuries. Entire chapters of humanity's collective memory. When we step back and examine every underground city, every vanished civilization, every unreadable message, every forgotten technology, every unexplained alignment, and every lost treasure, a larger mystery begins to emerge. It is a mystery that encompasses all the others. The greatest ancient mystery is humanity itself. Every mystery we have explored seems different on the surface. Underground labyrinths hidden beneath the earth. Monuments built in impossible locations. Civilizations that vanished without explanation. Messages no one can read. Technologies that appear centuries ahead of their time. Lost treasures that continue to evade discovery. Yet when viewed together, they reveal something far more profound. The greatest mystery is not any single artifact, city, or monument. The greatest mystery is how much of humanity's story has disappeared. History often creates the illusion of completeness. Textbooks present timelines filled with dates, rulers, wars, and achievements. The past appears organized and understandable. But archaeology tells a very different story. Every year, new discoveries emerge from deserts, jungles, oceans, caves, and forgotten ruins. Entire settlements are uncovered where none were expected. Ancient cultures appear in places previously thought uninhabited. Long-held assumptions are challenged. Again and again, researchers are reminded that what we know represents only a fraction of what once existed. Imagine the countless generations that lived before us. Most left behind no written records. Their voices vanished long ago. Their hopes, fears, struggles, and achievements often survive only through fragments buried beneath layers of earth. Entire communities may have flourished and disappeared without leaving enough evidence for future historians to reconstruct their stories. For every civilization we recognize today, there may be others whose names have been permanently erased by time. Their existence lingers only in scattered clues waiting to be discovered. Perhaps the most humbling realization is that knowledge itself is fragile. We often assume that important discoveries inevitably survive. History proves otherwise. Libraries burn, cities collapse, trade routes disappear, languages die. Scientific understanding can be lost for centuries before being rediscovered. Entire intellectual traditions can vanish when the societies supporting them are disrupted. The ancient world was not a collection of isolated cultures moving slowly toward modernity. It was a complex network of ideas, innovations, and experiences, much of which may never be fully recovered. This reality changes how we view the mysteries that continue to puzzle researchers today. The unanswered questions are not necessarily evidence of something supernatural or impossible. Instead, they reveal the limits of the surviving record. We are attempting to reconstruct thousands of years of human experience using fragments. Sometimes those fragments are enough to reveal remarkable truths. Sometimes they are not. Between what has been discovered and what has been lost exists a vast space filled with uncertainty, speculation, and possibility. Yet that uncertainty is precisely what makes these mysteries so powerful. Every unexplored ruin, undeciphered inscription, buried chamber, and forgotten artifact reminds us that history is still being written. Somewhere beneath shifting sands, dense jungles, remote mountains, and ocean floors may lie discoveries capable of transforming our understanding of the past. Future archaeologists may uncover evidence that answers questions we consider unsolvable today. They may reveal civilizations we have never heard of, technologies we never imagined, and stories that alter the narrative of human history itself. The ancient world continues to challenge us because it refuses to fit neatly into simple explanations. It reminds us that humanity's journey is far older, richer, and more complicated than we often realize. The mysteries we have explored are not signs of failure. They are invitations to keep searching, questioning, and exploring. Because the deeper we investigate the past, the clearer one truth becomes. History is not a finished book. It is a vast, incomplete manuscript with countless pages still missing, and some of its greatest secrets may be waiting just beneath our feet.